Hey everyone, this is my brother Michael.
My brother Adam.
We're the Sharp Brothers.
You're listening to Mentoring for the Modern Musician.
Hey everyone.
Hey everyone.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of
Mentoring
for the Modern Musician.
Today,
This is kind of different. We're going to bring you something a little different. We did warn people that we were going to do this.
we did. That's right. We mentioned that.
We let people know that this was happening.
We're going to post
We're going to recast
we're going to
a
recast.
podcast.
You know what we're doing is we're recycling.
We are recycling.
We're trying to make sure,
We're doing something good for the planet.
I like that.
Exactly.
Oh, not recycling. We're not really recycling.
Reusing.
Repurposing,
Repurposing. I like that.
right?
Perfect word.
The purpose
Yes.
of Bobby and Meg's podcast was to be a podcast. We're repurposing it as our
As our
podcast.
podcast.
And our reason for wanting to do this one was, after listening back to it, we were like,
So we're saying a lot of the same things,
but it's definitely different.
it's got a different feel to it, and it might come through in a way that it hasn't before.
Yeah,
It might
yes.
be a hit. You know what I mean? You might go, oh, that's what they meant
Yeah.
by doing that, because it's sort of we answer differently because we are being asked
Right.
rather than just you and I just
going.
shooting the shit. you know?
Exactly. Yeah, I think that too. No, I don't think that, man. I think
Exactly.
that's a good idea.
And it's different when you're being interviewed than when you're interviewing somebody.
Yeah,
it's a
that's
different
true.
dynamic.
Yeah, as it should be.
Well,
Although we've been in situations where you go, I thought we were being interviewed.
exactly.
But let's ask you about you also. That's fine.
Exactly.
That's good too.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So I think you're really gonna dig this. There's some different information that comes out, and even the stuff that you're gonna be familiar with
Yeah.
is gonna sound slightly different.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, because we're being asked.
Yeah.
So here we are, Adam and Michael,
On a interview for All Things College and Career with Meg and Bobby.
which, by the way, side note, they are also sisters,
They are sisters, so
which is
it
kind of cool.
It was a lot of familiar,
Exactly.
familial,
Familial, like
Familial.
Two brothers being interviewed by two sisters.
kind of strange.
Kind of strange.
Yeah, but,
Here we are.
but cool though.
Well, hello, Adam and Michael Sharp of Mentoring for the Modern Musician. Welcome to All Things College and Career. Thanks so much for doing our podcast today.
Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we're in our studio, but
We are. Well,
we're glad
always
to be on the podcast.
We're always glad to be in
Yeah.
our studio.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm glad to be
Yeah.
here. So I remember when my son Matthew would take lessons here, not the budding musician, but he still came, and Adam would say, "This is going to be the coolest hour of your day."
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, because if it's
Just
not,
the day?
And
or the week,
Okay, I was
coolest,
gonna say the
whatever,
week,
the
right?
coolest half hour, coolest
I was
hour.
like,
of the
wow,
week.
you gave him a different talk than
yeah,
no.
right.
But you just want to set the tone for
Yeah.
the lesson and set the mind frame.
And it
Absolutely.
was,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was his coolest hour for sure.
Yeah.
So we are so excited to be sitting here talking to you both.
Super excited.
Yes. And I can't wait for all of our listeners to learn all about what it's like to be a musician and live in this world, which can be crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
And also, it's so interesting how you've chosen to find your space in the industry, because I think, mentoring in the podcast that you're doing is just such an interesting way to expand your
Repertoire.
Yeah.
repertoire.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're definitely going to want to go way back to where you guys got started.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And all that good stuff.
Yeah.
We want to
Who's to
start
blame?
with Carol Richards, right?
Yeah, right. Way back to
Oh,
your
yeah,
grandmother.
way
Okay.
back.
Yep.
Which
Yeah.
I can't even believe how cool that is. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Before we go there, we'd like to ask our guest 3 things they love about their jobs, which you guys have many of, but if you could tell us, what are 3 things you love about being in your line of work?
Well, so when you talked about going way back,
yeah.
because we have a different job now than we thought we were going to have.
Right.
I mean, we
Your
thought we were going
career
to be rock
has
stars.
evolved.
Yeah, I was
We-
going to have a plaid Ferrari,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
and
and I was going to give him a
Naturally.
hard time for having a plaid
work
Ferrari.
like
Right.
maybe
Yeah.
2 hours a week. Just do shows
right.
and
Exactly.
bask
Right.
in the sun. And
Yeah. Someone
Sounds
fetching
so
your-
good.
right.
Well, and then we really got into it and discovered that there's a whole lot more to being a working musician.
So true. Who
Then-
would ever thought?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about the 3 things that we like about our jobs, really we've had many different jobs within this journey.
So it seems like a weird question. I was listening to one of
Yeah.
your podcasts where you were talking to somebody who was I think they were a physical therapist.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's fascinating. Like great answers and how specific
Right.
Right.
and how much
Yeah.
what her job was made sense.
right. Because she has
Right.
basically one specific job.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
throughout your career of that job, you've got
Right, there's a
different
path.
versions. You know,
Yeah.
like,
You
like
go
I
to,
love that
you
she
go to
did-
school, go to undergraduate school, right?
Right,
And, then you get your master's, and then you
your
start a
thing,
practice,
right?
and then
your
you write.
doctorate, and then you do a thing, and then you're when I was teaching this place or when I was working at
Yeah.
this company, and lots of jobs have that kind of trajectory. But
Yeah.
Right. A very standard, not standard path, but
but at
Yeah.
least a blueprint that you can do.
right, a
And
blueprint, a layout.
Yeah.
This is how you get from A to Z. Yeah.
exactly. And with music, it's different than that because your expectation is based on what you want,
Right.
and then you go toward that. And then as you're going towards it, you continually have to pivot toward what's working and what's not.
Right.
Sometimes gracefully and sometimes
Sometimes
so great.
kicking and
Like-
screaming.
like eventually you'll pivot whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think if we go back to when we were working, touring, recording musicians, the three things that I liked the best about my day are going to be completely different than
Today.
what I would say they are today.
So what were they
So,
then?
well,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So for me, when we were working, touring, and recording musicians, I loved playing shows.
Yeah.
I loved that. That was always
was the
one of
best
my
part of it.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
always one of my very favorite things to do. I loved recording probably more than anything. I liked being in the studio. I liked being a part of the recording process. It's how we ended up producing later is that I found that was the thing that I think I was better at than anything else was producing music.
You kind of found your niche.
Yeah,
And just
yeah, and so that was
pivoted
definitely,
towards it.
Yeah, and that was definitely one
Yeah.
of my favorite things to do, to the detriment of my own career.
Yeah.
Recording other people had such a draw for me that there were times where I know we should have been focusing on our own projects,
stuff.
our
Yeah.
own releases, our own
you
tours.
kind of put
and-
yourself on the back burner
yeah,
a little bit. Yeah.
It was funny, but it didn't feel like I was. It felt like I was going towards what I was really,
Yeah.
more
Which-
excited about.
Is what you should do, right?
Yeah.
Which absolutely,
exactly.
and really in retrospect, that was probably the best thing.
Probably at that time, maybe spending more time doing that,
do, yeah.
even more time doing that would have been a better
Yeah.
career move for me at the time. But again, as you mentioned, Adam, that as a musician, there's no path and there's
There's no blueprint.
no blueprint
Yeah.
and there's no trajectory that you can't even duplicate
Right.
And
someone
there's
else's.
lots and lots of bad information
So
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
about
about what
information.
is
Yeah.
true
Yeah.
and
And
what you're
that- and
supposed to
that's-
do. And
We
Well-
should say right now that you have a spot on your website where you offer good information that you wish you had received, so you can look at that.
Right. And
listeners, if you
we'll
want.
get to that, which
Yeah.
is a whole
Okay.
podcast.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, and that is
Great
why
information.
and that is why
Right.
we do the podcast.
Yeah.
And we were really coming of age in the music industry at a time where information started to change so quickly,
Yeah.
and paradigms shifted really, weekly
Right.
on what worked and what didn't. I think that if you're talking about through the 60s and 70s, you had a 20-year period of time where it was a much more standard path
Yeah.
for what you did. And by the time you got to the 90s, that stuff just didn't really work very much
Right.
anymore.
Yeah.
The
So-
industry changed.
What was the biggest shift? Was it
Digital.
Well, yeah, digital became the biggest thing.
in not being fairly paid for? Should I say, or
Yeah, and that started. That's a really great point, because that did start before even the digital. That live music, so home entertainment, changed the musical landscape.
the
yeah,
VHS.
Yeah.
VHS
Oh
tape,
my gosh, VHS.
changed,
Yeah.
Right?
and then of course HBO and that.
MTV.
Yeah, people stopped going out to
when
shows.
we were kids, and part of what we saw as our path moving forward was there were bands or people that were not really well known that never got famous,
Yeah.
but that made a living.
Yeah.
Because when they would go tour around, one of the guys, there was a great luthier around here, Chris Pern, who was a folk singer, lived up in northern New Hampshire and raised his family, and he would tour around as an unknown folk singer
Yeah.
and play these coffee houses.
right. But people would
Where
probably buy
nobody
their
had ever-
records, and
yes, and nobody had ever heard
they
of 'em.
couldn't get it online.
It's exactly right. So
Yeah.
he would go to a strange town, nobody'd heard of him. He was an unknown, and there'd be 300 people to come hear him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because there wasn't anything else going on. So part of that
Well, and
was
just
the pivot.
Well, and full disclosure financially, because you want to be honest about this with musicians, right?
Yeah.
That when he was doing that in the early 70s, he was getting paid between $100 and $200 a night. What you make
Which
for
relative
this,
to then, that's
well,
fantastic.
what you make for the same gig now
Is 100 to 200 a night.
$200 a night.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So,
So-
musicians for like cover gigs or unknown, where you're an unknown entity gig, haven't really had a raise
in
since
50
the
years.
70s.
Well, good thing inflation hasn't gone up or price the cost of anything.
No, right.
Yeah.
So,
good
but-
thing we're at an
Exactly.
equilibrium.
So
Exactly.
that's
and so
part-
that's a big change,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
That's,
and the live shows, for me, that was when we were playing live was great. That was one of the things I loved. I really liked writing.
yeah.
I liked practicing. Believe it or not, that was
Yeah,
one.
you did. You
that was.
loved
I loved locking myself in
Thank
my
goodness,
room.
right? You have to be
Yeah.
Right?
You gotta love that.
And I loved being able to not first I couldn't play something and then I could. And
Yeah.
I didn't care what happened between, and there were smarter ways I could have done it, but I loved that part of the process. And ironically then, when you pull forward to where I am now, being interested in the minutia of the process
right.
is what I'm really good at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I can teach. That's why I can produce. That's why
Yeah.
I can be an engineer.
Yeah.
People are always like, "Oh my gosh, aren't you bored with like teaching the same thing over and over again?" I'm like, "No, I love it.
Yeah.
Bring
Okay.
on the minutia."
Yeah.
Dude, I got to tell you, this is
That
the
is
first, this
great.
is literally the first time this has occurred to me. You loved that kind of practicing.
Yeah.
I did not.
No, I know.
But I loved practicing the show.
Right. Right.
Like
For the
dress
performance.
rehearsal type of thing.
Or
I
like
love
band practice. Where
getting the band practice done,
Right.
making sure that the set flowed perfectly, making sure that each song meshed into the next song just right, making sure that everybody had their parts down to the right. So if you think about what we've become
now.
You complement
now,
each other.
that you are an engineer,
Right.
and I'm more
Right.
the producer,
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
because my practice that I love is
Yep.
all what you were talking about earlier. I love the research. I love the
Yep.
over the big picture. That's really funny. I'd never.
Yeah.
That just
Yeah.
had never
It's-
occurred to
so
me before.
We just had a
Wonderful how
moment
you
here.
compliment. Yeah.
Total
It was a
epiphany.
moment, a total moment.
When you
But
look
they
at it that
so
way, it's-
compliment
It's
each
not
other.
really that different then.
Yeah.
No.
The first part of the career and the
That's
and the
true.
later part. It is
It's-
just
it's evolved. But
What we're doing is different. It's
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
it's still all music. I mean,
it's
that's
still music.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's
so that'd be
still-
the one thing that would translate from earlier career to later career. Favorite thing about what we do is that it has to do with music all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is
Number one. That's
Number
1, 2,
one.
and 3.
There you go. One,
yeah,
two,
which is pretty amazing.
1, 2, 3.
It's music.
We
That's
love
1, 2,
music.
3. Love
Music.
that.
Hey, then that's fair enough, and I love
Did we
that.
get to the third yet?
I don't even care.
Yeah.
Do we even
Yeah.
care? I think that was good.
No, I love
That
that.
gives them
I
sense.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's two of us, so we really only need 1.5.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly. But
Fair enough.
I think that Adam would agree that if we're talking about this in terms of people listening and trying to figure out if this is a career for them, that one of the things that you talked about that's so important is you're going to want to really like being self-motivated
Yeah.
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 and
Right.
spend a lot of time by yourself perfecting minutia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. And
I can
who would
see
ever
that.
think of that? As
Yeah.
you know, I'm sure young people are thinking, "I'm going to be a rock star
Yes.
in a band,
Yeah.
And I would encourage
I'm going to
that.
be around people
Well,
all the
after I
time."
try to talk people out of it.
Right.
If they say, I want to be in music, I go, no, you don't.
No, you don't. Is there anything else you can
Anything
do?
else
Yeah.
you like? Anything else
Exactly.
that brings you joy?
Right.
Anything else that wouldn't make it feel like you chopped off one of your limbs if you weren't doing it?
Just
Yeah.
saying.
And
right.
if
Yeah.
they're going to be a musician, they get annoyed or angry
Right.
at me even asking
Yeah.
that.
Right.
So then you know,
And then I go,
they're
all
in
right,
it.
well, fine, you're
Yeah.
screwed then.
They're
I guess you're going to have to do
Exactly.
all the
Sorry.
work.
Join
now.
the club.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So, yeah. Right. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. Yeah.
But if I'm hearing you guys correctly, basically, even though you were traveling and playing on the road in your early years, you kind of adapted roles that you're still doing today. But
Right. And that were evident back then, but
But-
you didn't really put your finger on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, and
Yeah.
we didn't have anybody to say to us, look, you're not going to want to be driving that van forever.
yeah.
Exactly.
And
The van is so cool, though.
I mean,
Yeah.
it
Right,
is,
at the time.
But things
at the
change.
time.
You have families,
change.
or
Yes.
Yeah.
you get older.
Lives.
Well, that's a whole nother subject, right?
and
there.
that's
Yeah.
a whole,
Yeah,
that's,
that
that's
is.
But
one
and
that
I'm
people
sure
don't
a
forget.
lot of people, maybe some still enjoy being on the road, no matter what. But it's a personality thing, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
a
I hate it.
lifestyle. What? Yeah.
I hated it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hated it.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Adam
didn't,
really didn't like
I
it.
wanted to be a
loved
rock
it.
star.
You
I didn't
did,
like
yeah.
being on the road.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
just,
I loved it. Adam didn't like it.
I did not.
Yeah.
Adam didn't like the
Constant
2 to
upset stomach.
2 to 3 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
sitting in the van or in the
Right.
car.
You know, we finish
driving.
a gig
Yeah.
at,
Yeah.
11 o'clock at night, get right in and drive for 14, 15 hours straight to get to the next.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know.
And did you guys do your own
I
driving?
dug it. I mean, I loved
Yeah,
it.
yeah, we did our own driving.
Mike, let's get back on the road.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I did. I loved it.
Yeah.
I did lots of our booking.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it was a lot. It
Yeah.
was a lot. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a lot.
So how long has it been since you've stopped going on
That kind of touring? Oh,
Long time.
long time.
Yeah.
I was in my early 30s, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
So, but you do some occasional.
We still-
local,
we
more
still
local,
play- we
right?
still play locally.
Yeah, yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
But there's a real distinction that needs to be made there, which is we're not recording original material. We're not
Right.
trying to get people to buy our stuff. When we're playing now, we're trying to be the coolest Spotify playlist you by accident ran across and go, oh,
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
this song.
That's
Oh my God, I
awesome.
love this song.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you guys are. You guys
Yeah.
definitely are that.
Oh, thanks.
There's no question. Okay, so backing up a little bit.
Yeah.
So you grew up in a musical family or a
Yes.
family of musicians. So can you tell us about that a little bit?
You bet. So our grandmother, our mom's mom, was Carol Richards, was her stage name, and she was most famously known for singing Silver Bells with Bing Crosby.
Love that song.
Yeah.
And-
Traditional Christmas song.
And so we've got some cool stories about how that was recorded and you know what it was
So
like.
cool.
And
That's just really cool.
Oh, yeah.
That is.
but so like that was
Bing Crosby.
part of our belief that
It was real.
it was real.
could
Was
happen.
that was
Oh,
that
for
was how
sure.
she
Right.
made a living. She was on TV shows
Yeah.
and
Well, she was on a weekly television show, a variety show. Was daily, actually. It was Bing's brother, Bob.
Yeah.
Okay.
the
Crosby had a television show.
Crosby show, and she did voiceover for movies and did club gigs and
Wow.
all kinds of and
Played
and
the Copa.
Yeah, no, exactly.
The Copa?
Literally,
Yeah.
like
That's
played
so
the Copa.
cool.
Yeah.
Right?
And
Yeah.
it did the
Yeah, I mean, that was-
USO. Is it USO tour? Is that what it's called? When they
Yeah, I
go
don't know if she ever
abroad
did a
from-
USO
She did
tours.
tour with Bob
Bob Hope.
Bob Hope.
Yeah, so she
I
must
thought,
have.
I
So it
thought
must have
I
been-
read
yeah,
that
I'm
in
sure
her
she did
bio.
USO.
Yeah, yeah. But so seeing that was a picture of, yeah, this is something that you can do. And on our dad's side, his father wasn't a musician, but he played piano.
Yeah.
And he would show up and there's our old dude grandfather sitting down at the piano just jamming, like just playing whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
Well, and not just that, but Dad, growing up outside of Chicago,
Yep.
when he did,
He would go see Muddy Waters and
was friends with
was
Muddy
friends,
Waters.
like,
I
would
mean,
drink
like
with
this,
them after
you know,
the
this,
shows and-
this
Love
skinny
that.
little white kid, you know,
Right.
going into the clubs in the South Side of Chicago.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of
and-
stood out like a sore thumb, basically.
Yeah, he
Absolutely.
did.
Yeah,
And-
but that's
they
awesome.
loved him because he was so into the music.
Yeah.
And, you know, and
Yeah.
so that was something that our father was constantly playing music
Oh yeah,
from
he
that
would
time
like
for
he had a
us. And-
45 collection, and he would on Friday nights
That's
when we were
great
little
music.
kids. Oh,
Yeah.
so good.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
He would pull out his 45s and play
Yeah.
music for us every Friday night and tell us, you know, oh, this is Big Bopper, this is Richie Valens,
Right.
here's, you know, here's Buddy Holly, or and all like and, all the
And
blues
well, you
stuff.
probably
and-
weren't impressed because you're little kids, and it's like,
No, we totally were.
oh, you were
we
already.
totally
we
were.
loved it.
No,
I
we
love
loved
that.
it. No, we
Yeah.
loved it.
'Cause you hear
We-
about
No,
famous-
we loved it.
You know, kids of famous people, and they're like, oh, I'm not watching. You know, they don't watch
Oh
your.
no, no,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
no,
no,
we
no,
loved
you
it.
guys
We
loved
loved
it.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
loved
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's part of how we got a broader musical education than we probably
For
deserved.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then we had, we had uncles and aunts who all played guitar, and they'd,
Yeah.
at big family parties, everybody'd be
Telling you it's
you know,
genetic.
playing
Yeah.
guitar and
Right.
singing, and so
Yeah,
it
no,
was.
I wanted to start playing guitar when I was 5.
Yeah.
And I didn't start playing until I was 12, and I was sure I was way too old.
Yeah.
Right.
I might as well quit.
I'm over the hill. What's the point?
It's done.
I'm a husband at this
Never
point.
gonna happen now.
So why didn't
Yeah.
you start at 5? Was
I didn't tell anybody. But that's a pattern for me. Like I liked,
Right.
You just-
I liked
you
smooth peanut
thought
butter,
about
and we
it.
grew up with crunchy peanut butter.
Yeah.
And I never asked for smooth peanut butter. I just sort of accepted my lot in
just
life.
secretly
I like the smooth
seething.
better too, and I
Whatever,
think we
this is
always
how it
had the
goes.
crunchy as well.
yeah, yeah,
Shoot,
Same
we could,
thing.
You could have just
I'm going
asked.
back. I'm going
yeah,
back.
exactly.
When you go
Yeah.
back, I'm getting smooth peanut butter.
Yeah,
That's smooth.
Exactly.
Yeah. So okay. So then you leave the family nest. You're heading out the door.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you go?
Well, I mean, we ended up doing most of our career from here as a hub,
Yeah.
thinking that was still a possibility.
Well, you're not far from Boston.
And well, you think that, but what we do know is that the industry had shifted to a place and continues to be in a place where if you are not in a metropolitan hub where there are other musicians to hang out with,
Yeah.
where there are other people in the industry,
Yeah. And some
That-
kind of definitive industry structure.
yeah.
yeah, this idea of being discovered on a playlist or
Right. Or like that you get one gig, or like you get one spin on one radio station, or you get one
Right.
opening slot, and there you go. Oh, we did it. We got
Yeah.
discovered. And what happens is you get that, and that's cool.
Right.
Now what?
Now what?
Yeah.
Now what? What,
Right.
what else
So,
is
like-
going on?
So I mean,
What
we
else you
were-
got?
So we
So what's the fallout been from that?
Right, exactly. We were
Right.
lucky enough to be on the reboot of the Donnie Marie show,
How cool.
and which was amazing. It was,
It was
great.
awesome.
What'd you guys do on the Donnie Marie
Yes.
show?
Let's hear about that.
We did an
played-
original song.
We did an original song.
Yeah.
I can't even remember which one.
I don't remember either.
Probably one we had just written instead of the one
Instead of the one that we had practiced for a lot.
that got us booked, which was again a great idea.
Okay,
right?
well, because why would you do a well-rehearsed one? You know?
Because,
of course.
because as a self-managed artist, you're always making really ridiculously bad decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you
Especially
don't
when
have
you're
anybody to-
younger.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Yeah, well, even when you're older, even when
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, we were already pretty seasoned. I mean,
Oh,
we've
yeah.
been around for a while.
I think I was 30,
If you weren't, you were really close.
Really
And
close.
we were,
Really close.
Yeah.
and I should have known better, for sure.
but without somebody talking to you about it, without research to go back and back it up, without a mentor,
So
Yeah.
this comes full
In your
circle.
life.
This is
Yeah.
what's
And without
currently
an
in-
understanding that you're supposed to continue learning.
Yeah.
Right.
If there's one thing I would say right this second while we're talking about this that sort of keeps spinning around in my head is you are not supposed to know everything already.
yeah,
Yeah.
You're never going to know everything.
and you won't.
Yeah.
You have to continually keep learning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And if you start settling back and like resting, particularly in the music world, forget
I'm
yeah.
sure it's
Oh,
true
yeah.
in the music
Forget
world, but hey,
But
I
it's
think
true
that,
in the
yeah,
other. It's the
Well, I
rest
think
of us.
especially
Like,
now-
Think
Yeah.
of any high functioning, high achieving people that you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Learning
They're
all the time.
Learning all the time.
So
Always
true.
interested in hearing,
Yeah.
oh, okay, that's an interesting thing I didn't. They don't expect to know everything.
Or-
They know what they know.
Yeah.
Right.
And they know what they don't know. They know what someone who has good information sounds like. They listen to those people. They know what people who don't have good information sound like. They don't listen to those people.
right.
And they're continually growing and moving. I didn't understand that was true in the music business. I already thought I was supposed to know.
It's
Right.
so funny.
Yeah.
It seems
Yeah.
like the older you get, the less you know. Because
Yes.
you know there's more
Yeah.
to learn.
You
or
know
you
that you
wanna-
don't know a whole lot.
Yeah.
You
And when
understand
you're
how
young,
little you
you know a
actually
lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know it all.
yeah, yeah.
Well, and I think if you do it right, you're less impressed with what you know
Yeah.
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 and more hungry for the other cool stuff that you might not know
Yeah.
or that you know a little bit about.
Right.
Exactly.
That's such a good point.
Yep. So you weren't in the way of danger, which is what my husband always says. You have to put yourself in the way of danger. You were a little off outside of the
Brilliant
danger.
man,
yeah.
your husband.
Yeah.
Not a dumb guy.
Yeah.
Not a dumb guy at all. Again,
You know, it's interesting. I would say that we would kid ourselves into thinking
Yeah.
that we were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and that we really did know some of the stuff that we should do, and we really did take chances, thus playing a more relatively new song on this, what we thought of as a big break, instead of the song that had proven itself over the last 5 years,
Yeah.
right? Or a song that had proven itself over the last 5 years. There's a smart way to put yourself in that path of danger, and there is a less productive way
Yeah. Sure.
of doing that.
Yeah.
And that's just something that unless you have a good mentor in your life, unless you have
Yeah.
a good, manager, unless you have a label
Right.
that's had this experience that, right?
Yeah.
It's a hard sell
It is.
Right.
to understand that that's
makes
part
sense.
of what it is.
Yeah.
You don't know the right decisions to make.
And
You're
I'm-
learning. So.
I'm thinking from your vantage point, maybe you're thinking, well, we've played this so much. We want to be on the cutting edge and bring something new.
Yeah.
We're on the Donnie and Marie show.
This is closer to what's
Yeah.
on the radio right now. This
Yeah.
is more what's in the public eye right now. We're going to bow to that. We're going to do something more
Right.
like that.
But neglecting how much you had honed and
Yeah.
Yeah.
refined that great song that was getting a lot of good feedback and
Exactly.
overlooking that.
and
Yeah.
in this
Well-
sort of whiny artist way, you want to play what's new.
yeah.
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 Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited about this new song.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
and in all honesty, we could play almost anything. We could have played a cover song that was really great.
Right.
And it still wouldn't have done what we thought this was going to do for us. We thought you get this one chance, right?
Right.
Where you get this national exposure, and now all the doors are going to open for you.
Right.
Right.
We
And-
sing this and we're
Right.
set. Yeah.
And ironically, a bunch of doors opened for us.
Yeah.
And we did start drawing more. We finally started filling clubs in New York City. We at this point we're going to New York City
Filling
That's
clubs in
amazing.
New York City.
every
Yeah.
6 weeks. We were
Yeah.
down there, and
That's so
we
cool.
had people paying attention to us and people wanting to know what was going on. And then after about 6 months or 9 months, we started hearing a familiar phrase from people, which was within the industry. So what's the follow-up been since the Donnie and Marie show?
Oh,
And
yeah.
we couldn't spin it right because
Well, we didn't understand how
we
to.
didn't understand.
That's like
We
a
thought
tough
that a lot.
interview question.
We thought that.
Yes, exactly.
That
what it's
is.
like.
We thought that a lot more should have happened by then, but we didn't realize that 6 months out, we never even said to any of them, "Well, we're filling clubs in in New York
Yeah,
now.
you didn't.
And
yeah.
we're
We have
working
a
on
following-
we're working on a new record and trying to build our fan base and
right.
and start a relationship.
Right.
We thought the networking thing was about finding someone to do something for us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We didn't understand that networking was actually meeting people.
Just
Yes.
meeting people.
and
Yeah.
and then you meet people who you hit it off with. And then you're like have a friendship, maybe an industry friendship,
Right.
and you
Right.
guys have coffee or you have drinks or you get
Let me
dinner.
ha- let
But
me
you don't
help
start asking them to
Hey,
promote your
so-
album.
Yeah.
No,
Because
or
who
sign me,
cares?
or
Sign me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You want to
Yeah.
manage me now, don't you?
Yeah, we had
Yeah.
coffee, so obviously.
We had the right terminology
Yeah.
for what it should be, but we
Yeah.
didn't understand the depth of what networking meant.
This is a great question. I'm sure it even hangs today.
The same question you guys were asked. What's your follow up?
They're still asking musicians today, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
It's
even
like-
more so now.
Yeah.
Yeah. The relationship thing is even more important now than it's ever been.
and long game is so important, which you have in every other career.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're going to be a lawyer, you don't think that you get out of law school and you're supposed to be trying cases in front of the Supreme Court.
Right. No.
If that's your type, or
Right.
that you're supposed to be
you
defending.
think maybe someday I'll reach that after years and years and years
and
of
you
work.
expect
Right.
90-hour weeks, and you expect
Yes.
lots and lots of drudgery,
Right.
and you expect to miss holidays and miss family events,
Yeah.
and you expect to be tired and be overlooked, and you got to work and you got to drive through.
Right.
That's
Well-
the expectation,
Well,
Yeah.
like Gary Vee says, that's the time where your body can handle that
right?
grind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
you expect that all of that is going to take longer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So in every profession, you don't get out of med school and think that you're going to land the best job in the best
No.
hospital in the best. Right.
The slight difference is that there is an element to, in the entertainment world, the age sort of peak like there is in sports. It's not as
Yeah.
drastic as it is in sports.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But look, if you want to be a shortstop for a major league team and you think you might get started and you're 25,
No.
forget
Yeah.
about it.
Right.
Like
Too
if you're over 12
Right.
Right.
and you're not the best
Being
baseball
scouted
player,
already.
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Then probably do something else, right?
Right.
And there is an element of that in music and in acting and in the other
In the arts.
in the arts where your body is the main focus is
Right.
the bigger one.
Yeah.
So
Right.
modeling or whatever. There is an element of the clock is ticking.
Longevity.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
But in the modern industry where lots of it is DIY, lots of it is not even indie labels, but like you're your own label and you're
Yes.
your own
You put out your EP. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
you are looking to get stuff happening on Spotify and you're getting
Yeah.
people that come out on your shows and doing your own touring, then long game is a more appropriate
Yeah.
and more achievable goal. And it doesn't mean you can't do well and make a national or an international splash while you're doing that, but it's not anymore an either or where it's major label
Right.
or
So
working
that's
at
been
Walmart.
the nice thing about the changes, I would think. Yeah, that you can be more independent and make it on your own that way.
Well,
without-
yeah. I mean, certainly recording is a lot cheaper. This interview,
Yeah.
we're doing it on
Right.
this piece of hardware.
Yeah,
that,
right. Hold up by a tissue
Right.
box.
Right. Exactly. But that this, 10 years ago, that would never be a
I
possibility.
know.
No,
I have a
absolutely
friend that she managed studios in Nashville,
Yeah.
Tennessee, and she would talk about what amazing talent they
The
were.
studio musicians.
The
Yeah.
studio
Oh, yeah.
musicians and how they were on so many different people's
Oh, yeah.
albums.
Well,
but-
Nashville is, yeah.
Yeah, but that job has, I mean, I'm sure there's still studios, but pretty much sounds like most musicians have studios in their own house or in
Yeah.
their.
Oh, yeah.
It's just changed everything that
and-
way as well.
And the lack of money in the industry is a concern. It's a real
Yeah.
thing. It's
Yeah.
something that you have to grapple with if you want to be in the industry. So if you're a young musician, the advice we give you is don't get married, don't have kids,
Yeah.
don't have any bills.
Right.
For
You
as
can't
long,
afford it.
For as long
Yeah.
as you
That-
can do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And if that becomes more important to you, fine, you're a normal
That's
human.
okay.
Good,
Right.
go do that. But don't expect when you have other people financially dependent on you.
Yes.
Whether it's your landlord or your spouse or eventually kids,
Yeah.
it's
Right.
irresponsible and untenable to not make money.
Yeah, untenable is the way to put it. That you will not be able to afford to go on the road for a month to 6 weeks and break even.
Right.
And the
Yeah.
bigger
Right.
problem
Right.
isn't that you can't pay your bills. I mean, that's certainly a huge issue.
Sure.
But the bigger problem is that you're going to make decisions bad for your career because they
Of
won't
financial
net you
lack.
money.
Right.
Right.
You can't be thinking if you get an opportunity to go on the road for 6 months, how much does it pay?
Yeah.
Right.
You can't.
You just have to take
You
it.
need
just
to
have
be
to do
thinking,
it.
when do we leave?
When
Yeah,
do we
when
leave?
do we leave?
How
And
long
you-
do I have to pack?
And that's why, and
Yeah.
when we've said, we
Makes
said this
sense.
at Berkeley when we were there once, they're like, oh, what would you advise a young
What's your
musician?
big number? What's your number one piece
We're
of
like,
advice
don't get
for
married,
young
don't have
musicians?
kids.
Yeah.
Coming from guys who have 7 kids between us.
Right.
And,
Beautiful kids.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And love
Yeah.
the family life.
And love
but,
the family
And love
life.
that.
And,
But yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm the happily, joyously married 25-year dude, right? But,
Yeah.
but that was a choice that has repercussions.
Sure.
Right? And
Yeah.
and whether you acknowledge them or you don't, they're there.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm thrilled with the choices I made.
Right.
Right.
Where I sit now.
Right.
But I see what you're saying. It's one thing to sacrifice yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also not to compromise any decision making based on other people.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and just to expand on it a little bit, when Adam was talking about how long a lawyer would work, earlier
Right.
on, well, you got to work that much as a musician too.
Right.
The difference is that when you're working that way as a lawyer, you got a salary.
Yeah.
Right.
Billable
Yeah.
hours.
And when
Right.
you're working that way as a musician, you're going to be lucky to really afford rent for a one bedroom.
Very often,
Right.
you have to work that hard as a musician while you have another job to support your career.
Right.
Yeah.
To support
Right.
your
Yeah.
career.
Which is a weird thing.
So you work a
Yeah.
full day, but then you have to come home and work another
Right.
full day on your
That's-
music.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
and so
dedication,
to
but-
go into it with eyes open
Right.
Exactly.
and
It's-
know that, you know what?
And that's what you guys are all about, helping people
Yeah.
go into it with their eyes wide open.
Exactly.
Mentoring
Exactly.
the musician.
And it
Yeah,
started
exactly.
from
Which is a great idea.
jokingly trying to talk people out of it.
no, it really did. yeah.
I mean,
but now you're
less
holding
jokingly,
holding
a little
their
bit, right?
hand
Yeah,
more. to-
but it turned into, all right, so how do we, since we can't talk people out of it, nobody would have been able to talk me out of it.
No.
We had people ask us,
Yeah.
one
Right.
first producer we work with asked us a great question. He goes, anything else you think you could do?
And be happy.
And be happy? And we were starting to answer him. He goes, don't tell me, come back tomorrow.
yeah.
And I was
Interesting.
19, I was furious.
yeah.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to talk me out of it, but it was
Yeah.
a great question because it did make me think,
He wanted to make sure he couldn't
how
talk
much
you
do
out
I
of
want it?
Yeah.
What was missing, and it wasn't his job to give
No,
this to me.
right. Well, he didn't have kids.
He didn't have
Yeah.
kids. What was
Yeah.
missing was
Right.
all the other information.
All
about
of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was okay, good. So then you say that this is what you have to do to be happy. What are you willing to sacrifice? So it's one of those things where now we talk about when you look down the road 5 years from now and you're 25 or 10 years from now and you're 30, what does your day look like?
Yeah.
Forget about money. Forget about what you're doing.
Yeah.
What does your day look like? What are you doing? What time do you
Right.
get up?
And
Yeah.
if I hear anybody mention a pet or a child or a
Or a
spouse
Yes.
or an intimate relationship,
Then you go
Yeah.
ding, ding, ding. Hold
Yeah.
up. Hold up.
Yeah.
you go,
Let's
okay,
back up.
let's talk about this realistically now.
Let's set some
Yeah.
expectations.
Let's set some expectations.
Yes. Now, it
Because
doesn't-
we want people to be happy
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
your
and
goal.
successful.
Right.
Right? The worst part about it is when we look back for ourselves in our own career and we look back and we go, yeah, this was a poor decision and it was based out of desperation
Right.
Yeah.
about money or about responsibility or about time, which is almost always about money or responsibility,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Exactly.
Or when we look at friends of ours' careers that have come so close and you look at their decision, and almost always the breaking point is based on an expectation of, air quotes, the normal life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Right.
Kids, house, dog, right?
It's a tough choice to make.
Right?
Yeah.
And what the part that people don't talk about is that part of it, the specific part of it. So a great example that Adam talks about a lot is that nobody knows about and nobody talks about is that Bon Jovi lived with his parents until his fourth album,
Third album.
third album.
Wow.
Right?
Right.
And not because he had to financially, but because what was the point? He was just living in his
Living in
room
the basement.
and then
Literally.
go tour.
Literally, yeah.
On,
yeah.
you know,
it's
on,
just a place to park his.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Never home.
Yeah.
Always
Yes.
on
what,
tour.
what people see
Always
is they see
hustling.
Bon Jovi going to his kid's school and everybody going, "Hey, John," and he looks awesome, and he's got this giant castle of a house in New Jersey.
Right.
Yeah.
They see Bruce Springsteen with a big, organic farm in New Jersey, and
Right.
Very cool.
hanging out in his studio thinking
Yeah.
about what he wants his next record to be. It's
Yeah.
like, well, right, but it's Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not what Bruce Springsteen was doing when he was 20.
No.
Yeah.
Or
You don't even-
25.
or 25 or 30.
Or 30.
Right?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't even imagine how depressing what they were doing at that point was
Right.
Yeah.
for most people, except somebody who wants to be
Except somebody who is a musician at heart and has to do the music.
Exactly.
Because that's what they
they're
have
just
to
driven
do.
to do it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we never, ever want to talk people out of something in a way that is not uplifting.
Right. That's
Right?
negative, or
It's
you'll never
all
make it.
based
Kid. That's
around-
not
right.
at all
No,
No.
no.
what we're saying.
But you're just trying to say, having gone.
We want people to make it.
Right.
And-
Yes, and
and
you'll
so-
be their biggest cheer.
And exactly.
Yeah.
I want to share the success stories,
Yeah.
and I
Maybe
want them
things
to.
you would wish people had shared with you
Absolutely.
at that, or
And that's
not
what
that it would
mentoring-
have changed your mind.
Well,
but
that's what mentoring for
but-
the modern musician started as.
Yeah.
Was we wanted to have this hub where we could give people, I hate the word advice, but a foundation of information
Mm-hmm.
of all of the stuff that we wish we had known.
and dispel the fantasy
Yeah.
of what people think it's supposed to be. Like, I can't tell you how many times we would be playing somewhere, even after we had stopped touring, and
Yeah.
people would come up and go, you guys are amazing. Do you ever think, what you should do is you should record some and send it to a record label.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, wow, that's
What a
a
novel
great
idea.
idea.
Right? Yeah. Revelation.
Wish we had
Revelation.
But again,
Right.
what they mean is they're having
Yeah.
so much fun listening to
Right.
us. Wow, you guys are
Yeah.
awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
You should be famous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I totally agree with you.
I agree with
But
you.
here's the thing, pal.
Yeah.
I
It
want
didn't
Adam to have his
happen.
plaid
You
for
know
us.
what I mean? Didn't happen. So, but thanks.
But
Yeah.
thanks.
I appreciate the compliment. So going back to what you were talking about, how you have to be willing to make sacrifices, it reminded me of the movie Bohemian Rhapsody, when basically none of them had anything, and they were like, "How much can we get for this van?"
And that was like the only thing they
Yeah.
had, so they could record.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's the idea, right? It might not be selling a van, but you have to be willing to make sacrifices if you hope to make it in this industry.
Yeah.
And the part they didn't address in that movie is that all of their parents had money.
Oh, and they didn't help them?
Oh, no, they did.
Oh, they did help.
Oh, so that was with help. They
Yeah,
still
they-
had to
oh,
sell
yeah.
the van.
It doesn't look as good in the movie if
Okay,
they're
well,
not
I
eating
thought it was fact,
if they're
that
not
movie.
eating dog food or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. The best way,
Yeah.
it's kind of like fashion, where, the best thing that you can do in fashion is be incredibly good looking and incredible shape.
Sure.
And that'll make your outfits look terrific.
Right.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
the best fashion advice I can
Right.
give you. Be really good looking and
Mentoring for the
incredible shape.
modern fashionista.
Exactly.
And if you're a man,
Exactly.
if you're over 6 foot, that's even better.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Like
Right. Put
all-
a paper bag on that person, they're going to look amazing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Right. So, the best thing you could do as a musician is not be married, not have kids, have wealthy parents who totally support you, and be incredibly hardworking.
Well,
you
and,
be incredibly
well,
hardworking.
and I'm going to add to that I want those parents or relatives to already know people in the industry
Yeah. A few
Yes. Who
who
connections
have been
wouldn't hurt.
successful,
Yes.
Yeah.
who really like your parents or maybe owe them a favor.
And
Yeah.
all of that being said, if you're not amazing,
Doesn't matter.
it doesn't
Yeah.
matter anyway.
Right. If you don't have the raw skill,
Yeah, you can have all the
ability,
contacts in the world.
You gotta
and
be
if-
good.
and
Which
if-
is why
yeah.
the other reason the sports analogy is a good one is at a certain level in sports, it doesn't matter who your
Right.
friends were or who your dad was. If your
Right.
dad was your coach, your mom was your coach,
If
or
your dad's Tom Brady, if you
it doesn't matter. If
doesn't matter.
If Tom Brady's kid couldn't throw
Throw the
and
damn
take a
football.
hit,
Right.
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
They'd be like, "Yeah, Tom, you're not your father, kid." You know, right?
Ted Williams' son wanted to play baseball too. We never saw
Yeah.
Ted Williams' son play baseball, did
Yeah,
we?
we're still
No.
talking about Ted Williams, not his son. Now there
Exactly.
are sons and daughters of very famous,
Sure.
Many more.
right?
Yeah. Lots of them.
But at a certain level, with everything, at a certain level,
You gotta have the talent.
You have to have
doesn't-
the
you
talent.
have to have the goods,
Like,
right?
I'm thinking
Yeah.
of Gronk's brother that was with the Patriots for
Right.
Yeah, for,
Right.
for a hot sec.
for a hot second.
Yeah, exactly.
What we saw was he's with him for a hot sec. Everything building up to that point
Yeah.
was his whole life,
Yeah,
Sure.
of course.
and
right.
he was probably pretty amazing.
yeah,
sure.
I'm sure.
Right?
You
Yeah.
don't get to the NFL in any
But once
shape or
you
form.
get to
yeah.
the show, whatever that show is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
People like your music or they don't.
Yeah.
People enjoy your performance or they don't. Now, you
You
got to
can
get the
improve it.
gig and
Yeah.
you got to be able to be personable enough to not piss people off
Mm-hmm.
so that you can do things. But at a certain level,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're either awesome or you're not,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
It's true.
So be awesome.
How can musicians make money these days? I mean, nobody's buying music anymore,
Nope.
right? We're all
Right.
streaming it.
Yep.
Everybody's got
Which
Spotify.
is,
Yep.
yeah.
Hold on to your publishing
Yeah.
Hold on to your publishing
as long as you can.
you can.
Okay.
Write really terrific songs. Perform in as many different places in as many different ways as you can.
Yeah.
If you're a band, you should all be doing solo gigs
Yeah.
as well as your band.
Oh, that's interesting.
If you're a solo artist, you should do cover gigs and you don't even have to tell anybody about them. But just go make the 150, 120 bucks,
Yeah.
get your tips, work on your chops. And if you're playing cover gigs, one original song per set.
Right.
Don't make people listen to stuff they don't know. That's
Right.
not what they're
Yeah.
there for.
Right. Sneak
Sneak
one
it in.
in.
Sneak
but-
one in.
Sneak it in.
You might get fans from it, but that's not the point.
No.
Yeah.
Live as cheaply as you can
Yeah.
for as long as you can.
Right. Once you get to a level, we're going to skip a bunch of steps here, but once you get to a level where you are either as a solo artist or as a band touring, make sure that you've got good merchandise
Yeah.
to sell.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Make sure that you have somebody with you, whether if it's not you or someone in your band, who's really good at selling that merchandise.
Yeah.
Right.
Who's really personable, who makes people feel special, who gives them a smile, who is engaging.
Yeah.
And learn to do that yourself.
Be a good human.
True. You
Yeah.
can't download the T-shirt, right?
Right. You can't download a T-shirt or a coffee cup or
And
or
for
a
some
Yeah.
reason, people don't want to pay $10 or $15 for a physical CD,
Right.
although we'll all pay $7 for a coffee,
No problem.
Right.
right? In a heartbeat.
Yep.
right.
But people will spend $20 on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And
$50 on a sweatshirt.
$50 on a
God, yeah.
sweatshirt.
You know,
Knowing what to have for
$15 on a
merch is
coffee mug,
important.
and they'll
Merch
Yeah.
is crucially
and if
important.
you
Yeah.
and think about your music being physically reproduced as merchandise, right? People will buy CDs,
So you'll sign it.
Yeah. Oh,
so
sign
you'll
it.
sign it. They'll
Yeah.
never listen to it because they probably don't even have a
I
CD
got this
player,
signed
Yeah.
CD.
Yeah.
but they have a copy of it,
Right.
right?
And you like vinyl, bands that are into vinyl.
That's like a souvenir for
It's,
them.
yes,
all.
Yes,
that's
yeah.
exactly
it is.
right.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
people will buy vinyl. Like vinyl sales have
'Cause
increased
it's kind
incredibly.
of cool
Yeah.
again, right?
But that's
Yes.
a niche thing,
I do
and
love vinyl.
most people don't make enough money off of their vinyl to count it as their
Right, you don't get income, but it'll give you enough to
continue
keep
doing
making
Right.
to
vinyl.
keep
Right.
getting vinyl,
And
right?
people who want vinyl, then you can help
Right.
service that part of your audience that way. Understand that your audience are the way you're going to make a living.
Right.
So treat them accordingly.
Interesting.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So the fan and the super fan are more important now than they've ever been for you to get money. So crowdfunding is a dying thing
Yeah.
right now.
But and we have a podcast about this called crowdfunding
crowdfunding is
is
not,
not
trick or treat.
So go back and listen to that.
Can I have some? Can I have some?
Yes, exactly.
Meaning it's not going to
Yeah.
solve everything where people are going to
Yeah.
fix all your problems because
Right.
you opened up a Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
There are great, like things like Patreon.
Right.
Oh,
Where,
Patreon, yeah,
you know,
that's big.
Where
they
people
reward
pay
you
you for everything that you do, that you
Yeah.
create, right?
Yeah.
But you want to flip it around in your understanding of it. It's not you going out to get stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's you servicing your fan base so that they feel special. The math that people will use for you is, let's say you're a solo artist. If you can get 1,000 people that are super fans,
Yeah.
and they'll pay you $100 a year in merch, various merch things that you do, that's $100,000.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that is a lot.
For a
Yeah.
solo artist, all right, I can
think I
pay
can
my
live
rent.
off that.
I think I can do all right,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Now that the numbers have to increase if you're a band, but it's completely manageable
Yeah.
to have a small number of people that you really engage with in live shows and in online shows and through various, podcasting or email things or however you're communicating with them that will help sustain build a career. So now if you've got 1,000 and you could build it up to 5,000 and they're all spending $100 a year,
Right.
it's $500,000.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about $500,000 a year.
And I'm going to jump on top of that because one of the things that's more important now than it has ever been is that you actually have a fan base that you have a way to communicate with.
Yes.
So email
Not
lists.
just Facebook, not just
Email
Instagram.
Not
list.
Email
get-
list.
It's really important to have.
So you
that
like the email list a lot.
Gotta have it. You
Yeah.
have to have it.
It
is-
seems sort of arcane, but no matter what platform anybody's on,
Yeah.
if you've got somebody's email that's real and they're an actual fan of yours,
Right.
that's a real communication you
Yeah.
can do. But if you have emails and they're yours, and then communicate with everybody.
Yeah,
Don't
right.
just send emails going, "Hey, buy my."
Right.
Send emails and go,
Let
"Hey,
'em know who
guys,
you are."
We're on the road,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we
That's a good
we
idea.
found this
Have
cool
a relationship.
burrito extra
It's a relationship.
recipe."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
That's a good. That makes
It
a lot
is
of
just
sense.
as real a relationship as those industry relationships that we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It even more so that when you have a fan base, you really want to make sure that they know how special they are to you.
right.
It's
How
not-
important they
and
are.
how important they are to
This
you.
is
I
such
can't do
great
this
advice.
without you guys.
And I really do want
Yeah.
to go back and just add to something that Adam said about playing cover gigs. Some musicians can't do that. Some musicians
Agreed.
that
Yeah.
kills the music for them, that kills the joy for them. It
takes the soul
It takes
right
the
out of 'em.
soul out of it.
Yeah.
Nora Jones very famously
Oh, Nora Jones. yeah.
was making a really good living in Texas when she was going to school, moved to New York, and stopped playing cover gigs after about 3 or 4 months because they paid less it was
And it
more
was
competitive,
crushing her soul.
Yeah.
and it was crushing her soul.
Yeah.
And she just went,
Made
you
her
know what?
miserable.
I'd rather wait tables.
So
Yeah.
embrace the day
make
gig.
money.
Do not
Yeah.
ever be ashamed of your day gig if you're a musician.
Absolutely.
If you're a barista, if you're parking cars,
Right.
Sure.
if you're doing design work
Yeah.
Whatever
for
it
someone, like
takes,
doing
yeah.
web stuff, or
Yeah.
you answer phones somewhere, or whatever your
tables.
gig is.
Yeah.
Wait tables. What if you went to school and you by accident got your teaching degree and you're teaching? Good. Teach,
Right.
man.
Right.
Sure.
And tour
Yeah.
in the summer. Tour
Yeah.
on vacations.
Do what you can do during the day that you don't hate.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? So
Yeah.
that you can keep yourself elevated to a place where you can still do the hard work
That's-
But the people,
and be
the
inspired.
the fans that you're going to need to fans. I wish I could do podcast
air
version of air
quotes.
quote, right?
Yeah.
So this is the air quote. The fan
Got air
we need a
quotes.
sound for it, right?
Yeah.
The-
Yeah.
So fans right, are actually people. They're
Yeah.
not nameless, faceless people that just adore you and show up whenever you get there.
Exactly.
They're real people who had to figure out their whole day to get to your show.
Right.
Treat
Right.
them accordingly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Well, they might have been planning it for 3 months.
Right.
Right.
And
And
I've
if
heard you guys talk about the fact it doesn't matter what kind of a day you've had. If you've had a bad day,
Oh yeah.
it's
Yeah, they've
you've
come
gotta-
all this way. They've
You've
come
got to
out-
be on. Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's
Yeah.
yeah.
And part of this is sort of getting your head in the right space. That it may not be what you thought it was going to be.
Right.
When you fantasized about being in music.
Well, there's a lot
All
more
right,
than
well,
just
wow.
writing the songs and performing.
Yes.
Right.
It's a business.
Lots,
Right.
It's
exactly.
yeah.
Lots
Yeah.
of stuff isn't like we
Exactly.
thought it was. That doesn't mean it's not fun. It doesn't mean it's not joyous.
Right. You
it's
might
just
love
different
it
than you thought.
but it's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
So go, okay,
Yeah.
all right. So I guess it's like this. Okay, let me find out what it's like. Do
Yeah.
I still want to do this?
Right.
But again,
Right.
this is what's a great service you guys are providing by kind of laying it out there. People can come and listen to your podcast and just get so much information.
This is
And-
why we don't manage people. Because I always we had a number of people ask
So
us
many
to
people
manage them,
ask us to manage them.
and I would always say nope because
Yeah.
I want to be able to tell you you're full of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to be honest with you.
I need to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
I don't want to be stroking your ego. all
I
the
don't
time.
want to
That's
make.
not-
I don't want to make a
Yeah.
bad decision for your career, so I'll make money.
Yeah.
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 And good managers don't do that, right?
Right.
Right.
Good managers only make good career decisions.
Yeah.
And it's a different relationship that a manager has. We have some good friends that are managers that are very successful managers.
Yeah.
And they're amazing. And
Yeah.
what they do, I could not do.
Right.
It is just so
But
much.
that's another aspect of the business. that-
Yes.
Whole
yeah.
another
Yeah.
part of the business.
Yeah.
And that's
It
the
is.
thing that happened to us by not getting on the cover of Rolling Stone and by deciding we were going to stop touring in our early 30s or whatever go. We found all kinds of different things by accident. I was teaching guitar
Right.
while we were on the road because I could always go, hey, I'm not going to be here next week. And
Yeah.
every time I would come home off the road, I would be psyched when I would like come into the studio like cranky and,
Yeah.
and like have to teach for 7 or 8 hours
And you'd
then
be ha-
drive home whistling and feeling great.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was like, wow.
This
What is that telling
yeah.
me?
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe this is where I should be.
And I was
Exactly.
going to ask you
Yeah.
guys, when was that pivotal point where you
Yeah.
kind of just sat down together?
I don't know that there was a pivotal
No,
point.
we went out
I mean,
with a whimper. I mean,
Yeah,
lots,
I mean,
of,
I-
lots of bands went, that's it. We're going to go do our goodbye show.
Yeah.
We
You
looked
didn't
at each
smash
other.
guitars
No,
or anything?
we
Yeah,
looked
we-
at each other after one tour and sort of decidedly didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
silent.
It was
yeah,
bad.
it was just it just sort of faded.
It
And
had run
didn't-
its course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
And then
we-
we've tried a bunch of different things. We tried to come back and do a cover album.
Yep.
We still play together,
Yep.
and separately.
Yep.
Yeah.
And for me, one of the reasons it's still important to me to really play is because I teach. I'm
Yeah.
a vocal coach and an audition prep coach, and I always feel like if the person that you are learning from can't do it, you need to find someone else.
Yeah.
Right. So I need to be able to prove that I can still go out there and do it.
If
Yeah.
Mr. Miyagi can't like knock you on the floor,
Right,
man,
exactly.
Yeah.
gonna
Right.
listen
Then
to him.
find someone
Right.
else, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
And so one of the
true.
ways for me to still coach performance and still coach how to sing live and how to keep your voice healthy, and I need to still be doing it.
you have to practice what
Right.
you preach,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah,
right.
And
No,
it's
it
makes
and,
sense.
and luckily, I also really that's been the part that I've always really
You still
enjoyed
enjoy
the
it.
most, and
Right.
I love doing that. So we've done a bunch of different things. That's when we started recording more other young artists.
Yep.
It's when we started mentoring younger artists. It's when we
Yeah.
started having people
And
that
so
would,
I picked up my head, and 20 years later, I've
You're-
been engineering for 20 years.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Right.
So you
We're-
guys didn't have a discussion. It just
It
kind of
just
naturally
kind of-
evolved.
it
Yeah.
naturally evolved.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
So if you're just coming into the music industry, say, I don't know, say you're a 16-year-old with your guitar on your couch right now.
Yeah.
And you're like, how do I break into this? What's the first thing I should be doing?
Be awesome.
Just practice, and be awesome?
Be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
What? Answer this question. Why do I care? That's cool. You got your little guitar. You write your little songs.
Yeah.
That's neat. Why do I care?
Right.
And not me, Adam Scharf.
Right.
Why
Does
does the
one
person
care?
listening?
Yeah. Right.
What is it about you that's going to make somebody want to come see your show?
Is this because you have a podcast called "What's Your Superpower"? Is that what you're
Yes.
getting at?
Yeah,
Or-
kind of.
Yeah.
But prior to that, even, I think it's important to understand that nobody is going around trying to discover musicians.
It doesn't happen.
That's not how it happens.
No.
No.
And that is a fantasy that people are fed
Yeah.
through Disney and through other
Right.
stuff, right?
Right.
And that's fine. It's good entertainment. But
So they
it's-
think if I put like I don't know a video up on YouTube, I'm going to get
Right.
discovered.
And look,
Right.
if you put a video up on YouTube and you immediately get 10 or 20,000 views, all right,
Okay.
put some more put some more
Yeah.
videos up
Yeah,
on YouTube.
right.
Exactly.
Do what you're doing. Do
so
that.
I do want
Yeah.
I do want to clarify one little thing about the no one's looking to discover you. Talent shows are actually doing
Oh,
that.
okay.
That's true.
America's
That's true.
Got Talent.
So they really are doing that, and it
That's
is
true.
something that
Good
I've
point.
taken some training on
so
recently.
they send people out to look for talent as
No.
well. No.
They have people in rooms looking at Instagram accounts,
Really?
going through YouTube, going through. So they really,
I did not know
So-
that. Did you?
they are
No,
looking for
I
that.
thought people came to them to audition. Yeah.
That also happens.
Right.
But so in the industry, television industry, there are people who are doing what people used to do for record industries on many, many years ago,
Yeah.
where they are looking for talent. However,
However,
they are not looking to give you a bunch of money.
No. And they're
Right.
not looking to give you a career.
They're not looking to give you a career.
yeah.
They're looking to
If
make a
you
good
are
television
lucky
show.
enough
Yeah.
to do well at the audition and get on the show, there are producers that will help you be the best you on that show. But it's not a long-term thing. And you can pay some of them to be long-term career coaches, and that is something that does exist. And I just wanted to throw that out there, but I also want to now circle back and say what Adam said is exactly true, which is that it's not the end.
Right.
You're not on top of the mountain, right?
Right.
If you're lucky, you can see the base of the mountain.
Yeah.
Right. It's
Right.
kind of like when you guys got on the Donnie and Marie show.
It's very much that's
Yeah.
the point.
That's exactly
Yeah.
That's
right.
exactly it.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing it back to
Yeah.
that. That's
Well,
exactly
and it
my
is
point.
true. I mean, that's today. That was yesterday's.
But
Yeah.
that
America's
was
Got
yesterday's.
That's,
yeah.
no, that's exactly right.
But
Yes.
I have to say, the things that the young people do have going for them now are the advantages, the YouTubes and the Instagrams.
Yes.
That you guys could not put that out there, let everybody in the world know.
Right.
Yeah, but everybody has that same
Right.
advantage. So
Right.
They do.
Right. So
Exactly.
you're
So-
still competing with
So
Yeah.
you are still competing. It is still important that, like Adam says, you have to be awesome,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very much like buying a lottery ticket is not a good retirement plan,
Right.
right?
I mean, somebody wins.
Unfortunately.
What are we doing, man?
I know.
Someone-
Plan B.
Someone is going to win.
Someone's going to win, and that person will have enough money to retire.
Right?
Such a great analogy, though.
Yeah, it
yeah.
is. Right.
But
Unfortunately,
you know,
but
getting
yeah.
10,000 views on your Instagram account or on your YouTube account, or even 100,000, or even 1,000,000, does not give you
may
a career.
or may not give you a
Right.
career.
Yeah.
You have to keep doing what you're doing and keep the forward momentum going.
And part of that is, and this is why I say, why do I care? I
Yeah.
always start an artist with that because it makes me sound awful and it gets their attention, and they're like, "Wait, what do you
Right.
mean?"
Shocking.
I'm like, well,
like,
like,
looking for
like
shock
that's cool.
factor.
I mean, I
A
care
gape.
about you as a human. That's neat.
Right.
But why do I care about your music? What is it about you that
Why
I
am
care
I going to
about?
carve time out of my day
Right.
to listen?
And what that helps them think about is, all right, who am I as an artist?
Yeah.
And you have to be clear about who you are as an artist.
yeah. So is it okay just to have a niche?
Sure.
Yeah.
If you're amazing.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Still got to be awesome.
It still have to be awesome.
And
Yeah.
it depends on what you want.
And what is awesome? Is it authentic?
Well, I was going to say, I think authenticity is more important now than it's ever been. I mean, it's always been a very, very important part. You know, Elvis wasn't out there shaking his hips because someone told him to.
Yeah, it was
right,
just
and he was
came
doing it
from
because
the
that's who he
soul.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, that being said, Colonel Tom Parker did make up a whole bunch of stories about Elvis and
Yeah.
take all the right pictures and
Absolutely.
Yeah.
frame the.
But
Right.
it sta-
so
but
there
it
was a
started with
business mind
authenticity.
behind all that.
Right.
But it
Yeah.
started with authenticity.
But it
Exactly.
started with authenticity. All of the biggest stars are, for the most part, there's always that authentic Colonel there. That it's funny, Colonel Parker. That starts that
Play on
everything
words, yeah.
grows from. Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
There is that authenticity is the foundation.
Yeah.
Right. And when Adam's talking about why do I care, it always starts with authenticity. Whether you're talking about Billie Eilish or you're talking about Lady Gaga
Yeah.
or you're talking about John Mayer.
Like John Mayer wearing a meat suit like Lady Gaga did. Totally
Wouldn't work.
inappropriate.
Yeah.
Totally
That wouldn't
But
work.
that doesn't mean that wearing the meat suit wasn't brilliant for Lady Gaga to do.
Sure.
Right.
Right.
It was. I mean, I'm still talking about it.
Yeah, we're
Exactly.
talking about it right now.
You know?
Exactly.
And I don't even eat meat, but I'm like,
Neither
I'm like down
Yeah.
with that. Like that was, that's who she was
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's
made
authentically.
sense for Lady
yes,
Gaga.
it's shocking. Yes, it's a thing, but so you have to do what's right for you, and in order to do that, you have to know who you are as an artist,
Right.
and think of the person in your life that works the hardest. Whoever it is, whoever just popped into your head.
Yeah.
Okay, picture that person. Now work harder than them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can't do it.
So that's the that's the place to start with music.
Right.
Use that as the model.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And the work could be anything. It's practicing your craft, but
Yeah.
it's also all of these other
It's
things.
all
you're
of it.
It's social media and it's
creating
figuring
the
out who you
merch
are
and-
and it's figuring out how to make a
and
living.
it's making
going out
schedules
and going out
networking.
going out 4 or 5 times a week and hanging out with other musicians and seeing
Yeah.
other musicians
Yeah.
play.
Yep.
Yeah.
supporting
And-
them. Yeah.
Yeah, and, like you
supporting
said,
them
doing,
not to get something,
Right.
but because they're
Yes.
other musicians and you're part of the scene.
Yeah.
And that's part of your networking.
Yeah,
That
it's
should
part of
be
your-
authentic and real.
Right.
Yeah. You
Right.
have
Because those are your friends.
Right.
They're your work friends.
Right.
Right.
And you'll get a lot from them. You'll get community and you'll get,
Yeah.
if you don't like hanging out with other musicians,
Yeah, right.
you probably don't want to be.
Yeah,
don't want
another
to-
Yeah.
sign where
Right.
maybe this
Yeah.
isn't for you.
to. Right.
And again, look, there's nothing wrong with just loving to play guitar or play piano or sing. That's great.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
It's so
right,
funny.
make a
We
living
had
at
a
it.
podcast guest that mentioned this. Sometimes your hobbies aren't necessarily meant to be
Yes.
a career
Your career.
because
Exactly.
sometimes
Figure out
it
whether
takes
it's your
the joy
vocation
out
or
of
your
it.
avocation.
Yeah.
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 Right?
Yeah.
Because when you take your avocation and you make it your vocation, there is a certain amount of joy
That
that is
disappears.
ripped away.
Yeah.
Right, because now
Right.
this is your it's your
Yeah.
vocation.
I had a huge screaming fight with my uncle about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my uncles when I was probably 18, and he was like, basically said that to me. And I was like, oh, you don't understand, man. Yeah,
right.
And what's funny is looking back on it, he was right.
Yes.
Period. Next sentence. I was right. Mm-hmm. We were both right.
Yeah.
There was nothing else I could have done.
Right.
Yeah.
And it did rip a little bit of the joy away.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just because out of the nature of it becoming your job.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is why we'll circle back to this real quickly. One of the reasons that we're so adamant when we talk about the choices that you make, personal choices, relationship choices, not having kids choices,
Right.
not having a dog choices, not
Career choices.
career, right?
Who's the manager? Are we touring? Do we not tour?
Is
Whatever.
because that's how you keep the joy
Yeah.
in doing it.
Yeah.
You're trying to
I'm
protect them
trying to
from-
protect people
Yeah.
and have them still have this joy. The reason that they got into it because they love
Right.
music and playing music and writing music and performing music.
And we're not telling you to be unhappy and be lonely and never do anything that you want to do in your life. If family's really important to you, have a family.
Right.
Right.
You're not
just
But
know
don't
that you
expect-
and still keep doing music. Just don't expect a career in it.
And maybe think of a way that you could still do your career in a way that you're also able to have a family. Think
Well, like
of your
you guys
choices.
have.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I think I would have enjoyed some of my process a lot better.
I know
a
I would
lot
have.
more if I'd have been
Yeah.
making these decisions clearly and not resentfully or out of desperation.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
If I had had this information and I had known I'm choosing this over this,
Yeah.
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 Then
it
at
would
least
have-
you're
just
making the
all of
choice.
it would have been so much more joyous.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
what is your day to day like now? Like, what's a typical day for you guys?
Or a typical week,
Or
because
a
every
typical
day is
week,
different.
yeah.
Like you don't have to go day by day, but
Yeah.
just like
It is not uncommon for me to go 7:30 in the morning till 9:30 or 10:30 at night
wow.
doing various things because as I mentioned also engineering so
Right.
audio in various degrees has become so recording and engineering and also still teaching and also gigging and then
Right.
doing the podcast or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's
Yeah.
not uncommon for me to do 12, 14 hours.
Yeah. Well, you usually give yourself the weekends.
Now I give myself
you
the
do.
weekends. That didn't used to be the case. It was sometimes the days were a little shorter, like 8 or 9 or 10 hours, but it was
Right.
7 days
But
a
you
week.
were 7 days a week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
7 days a week.
And I'm
right.
still doing 7 days a week usually.
Yes.
Wow.
But I don't usually get the 12-hour days that he does because engineering is not one of my skills.
Yeah.
Right. So nobody can sing at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
So that's generally when I'm doing, socials or I'm doing research or I'm listening to other people's podcasts or reading any number of different Industry Insider mag, so that I'm up on what's
Right,
going
because
on.
Right.
It's constant
Yeah.
learning, as we were
Constant-
talking
Exactly.
about before.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is not different. In other careers, they call it career development.
Sure.
or-
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Professional training. Or,
Right.
Yeah.
You're
Continuing
enrichment.
education
Continuing
credits.
education, exactly.
Continuing, right.
No, exactly.
Absolutely.
It's true.
Yeah.
They all
Yeah.
do
Do the
it.
same thing with music. Like we
Yeah.
were joking about with the technology. When you came
Yeah.
in, I was like, oh, that's a cool. I didn't know you had that. With
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Always got something else to learn. And
Yeah.
it can be cool and fun now.
Yes.
Oh, we
So
do.
long days
Exactly.
like that
Yeah.
can be fun
Right.
as long as you like what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I get just as jazzed about seeing the success in a student's eyes when a technique that we've been working on finally takes hold.
I bet.
Like that look in their eye stays with me just as long as a song that I just performed great in front of a bunch of people.
Wow. That's
you know,
great.
like it's the same
It's
Joy.
the same great
elation.
feeling.
It's the
Yeah.
same. Yeah.
Yeah.
It absolutely.
I don't
is.
know that I will ever get over the sublime brilliance of a G chord.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely perfect, and it's just as cool now as it was a
Wow.
million years ago when I started
Wow.
playing.
It is a
so-
good chord.
Yeah.
Not
It's
that
a
I can
great-
play it,
right? It's a good chord.
but I've heard others play it.
Right. It's maybe the best chord.
So, believe it or not, we are coming up on an hour.
Oh,
my
my gosh.
gosh.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Wow.
That just flew by.
'cause we-
This
Flew
has
by.
been the
I
easiest
love it.
interview
We
ever.
could talk another
Yeah.
hour.
This is the sibling podcast.
Yeah, the sibling podcast.
I was going to mention that I wanted to let our listeners know. Obviously, Meg and I are sisters. You two are brothers.
It's awesome.
It's very
Yeah.
cool.
It feels
It's
like
just
we're twinning or
There's
something.
something going on
Yeah,
here. We get a little, yeah. So, okay, we're going to do the fun.
Are we going to do the rapid fire?
The rapid fire.
Wait,
Yeah.
I love it.
And
But before we say that,
Yeah.
I just want to share with our listeners, definitely go check out their podcast, Mentoring the Modern
mentoring for the modern musician.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
And we've been
Yeah.
listening to
I've
it lately.
subscribed.
Anybody?
I gave him a 5-star. People, get
Yes.
out there, rate, review.
Thank you, Ray.
but
Please get out there, rate and
anybody
review.
interested in
subscribe.
the music industry, I'm telling you,
Yeah.
this is great content.
Yeah.
So you should really
You're
check
missing
it
out
out.
if you're not listening to
Right.
it. Don't make it hard on yourselves.
Right.
It's a mentoring.
Don't make it hard on
We want-
yourself, exactly.
We want to bring you the joy.
Bring in the joy.
Bring the joy.
That's what it's all
and
about.
the good tips, good
All
advice.
right. Good point, Meg. All right. Well, listen. These are very serious.
All right, we're ready.
Put your thinking caps on.
All right, a couple of them are semi-serious, but hey. All right, so we usually ask our guests, tell us 3 words that describe yourself. But seems how you guys are brothers, I'm going to ask you guys to say 3 words that describe one another.
Oh, wow.
Compassionate,
Okay, here we go. Compassionate.
authentic,
Damn, I'm feeling the love.
serious.
Yeah. Okay.
Not in a
As
bad
he
way.
laughs.
though.
As
Not
he
in a
laughs.
bad way.
I dig that. That's
Yeah.
great.
No, I like
dig
that.
That's
great.
great. Authentic. Mm-hmm. I want a word that says talented beyond belief.
Yeah. Exceptional.
Exceptionally
Yeah,
talented. So I got to use 2 for that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
We'll
For that.
allow it.
Yeah,
We'll check
exceptionally
with the
talented.
judges.
One
but I think it's
exception
okay.
here. Exception to the rule. Oh, judge approved.
Nice.
Insightfully compassionate. I'm going with 2 on that one too.
Wow.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
I love
pretty
the
good. I like
relationship
that.
here.
Yeah.
That's
you
awesome.
guys are
That's awesome.
obviously close.
Yeah.
and-
That's a gift.
yep, it sure is.
Well, it's been a gift to work with him all these years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
That's why we're
Yeah,
still doing it.
can't take
I
that
know.
stuff for
Well,
granted.
it's
Absolutely.
been time tested, so there's obviously
Yeah.
been-
I don't think you're
Well,
going
ironed out.
anywhere.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
No,
yeah.
no,
No, exactly.
Okay, this is an unfair question. I have to caveat this.
All right.
For the sake of the rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
Okay? Because they have to take it in that context. If you weren't doing what you are doing now,
Yeah.
what would you be doing?
Probably looking
Tough
like a,
one.
like a haberdashery.
Haberdashery.
No, he's quoting
Going into
Spinal
Spinal
Tap.
I know. I
He's
knew right
totally
away that
quoting
Spinal
Spinal-
Tap.
so-
Yeah, are
so,
you
you know,
kidding me?
Hello.
Hello,
We're
black.
What size are you?
Yeah.
So we're all out.
As long as it's still the sex and drugs, I guess that's
That's
fine.
rock and roll, right?
Nothing rock and roll. What would I be?
Spinal Tap.
I
Great
would,
movie.
I would probably be a university professor.
Nice. And I can see that.
Yeah, that's probably what I would do.
Yep. Teaching music.
Well, no, I probably would be a philosophy.
Ah,
I love that.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
That's a 180.
Yeah.
Still time in your next career.
Yeah.
Just go on out and grab that PhD.
I think I would probably do something else in entertainment,
Yeah.
but maybe like movies or something.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
That's my second choice.
That's
Acting.
your
I would have
second
been an
choice?
actor.
Yeah, actor.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, another
Yeah.
stable career.
You
Yeah.
both.
I know.
You both.
That's it.
I know.
The actors now.
I know, exactly.
Someone
Yeah,
just
there you go.
discovered these
I know,
two.
that's the whole thing.
Well, that's how it works, you know. Someone just discovers you.
Yeah,
That's it.
right.
It's
not
just
how it
sitting
works.
down.
Should just do a little play somewhere and somebody
I don't know
comes
why
in and goes,
Brad Pitt
"Oh, where
keeps
have you
getting
been?
all these parts.
Everybody needs you."
You guys
No, they
should
don't.
do a little local theater. I could see it.
All right, there you go.
All right.
Totally.
I'll let you know when I do it.
Okay.
We'll come watch.
If you
Okay.
could sit down with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be? It's a tough one. I mean, there's probably about 100 people you'd like to sit down with, but try to pick one.
Okay, I'm going to pretend that this is my answer because it's the first thing that
Came to your
popped in my
mind?
Which
head,
is good.
right?
So-
Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Stevie.
Oh,
yeah.
Because there's something about what was going on with him musically that I still don't get. And
Yeah.
I've studied it and analyzed it and taught it, but I really would like to know what he was thinking.
Yeah.
But well, again, a caveat with that, during the last 4 years of his life,
Oh yeah, when
because he
was
sobered up.
Okay.
And
right.
so,
he might have made some sense.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's other people that I should have chosen, like,
Well,
you know,
it's okay.
the Dalai Lama.
Right. Right. I should have been,
Right.
But he would just want to talk to me about guitar and be like, "Oh, you know, what do you use? You a Gibson or a Tele guy?" You know.
Because that is what he would.
But, you know, Stevie Ray Vaughan, we can really talk about some life.
Yeah. Right.
Stevie Ray Vaughan had the spiritual answers.
Yeah,
for you.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Forget the Dalai Lama. Come on.
Right.
You know, I've heard this question asked people before.
I know.
And
I'm like, no
I-
one's ever going to ask me that.
the first person that always comes to my head, and I always feel like it should be a musician, or it should be an entertainer, or it should be another producer, or it should be, but Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Great president.
Yeah, I mean, if
I
I
mean-
think that's it's always the first person that comes to my head. If I could talk to anybody,
I think that
Yeah.
should be your answer then. The
Like
one
I
that
told you.
pops into
That
your
would
head.
be-
Serious.
yeah.
Good conversation.
Yeah. Hey. So,
okay.
a place you're dying to travel to.
I've always wanted to go to Hawaii.
Yeah.
I know there's not a lot of history there. There's not a lot of
Nope.
I
It's a
should
beautiful
wanna go-
place.
I
though.
should
The
wanna
Brady
go.
Bunch episode was crazy, man.
It was. I just got to stay out of those
How do you
caves,
take
brother.
all those kids to
Yeah, I
Hawaii?
know. What did he do? He was what?
He was an architect.
He was an architect.
Like, what was he building?
They had a live-in.
They had a live-in maid,
They had
but the
the
kids had to
coolest
share a
house.
room.
He has 6 kids. She did
Yeah,
nothing.
but
kids share
Greg
2
had the
rooms.
that Greg had the beads though.
And she didn't even. Mrs. Brady didn't even.
Well, but that was
work.
when Greg moved up to
know.
the
The
attic.
attic.
That's
Yeah, right. The attic.
come on.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I was
gosh.
jealous of
All
that
right,
room.
Hawaii.
Oh, that's so funny.
Hawaii is a good answer.
I really would like to go to Australia. I think.
Yeah.
Australia, mate.
Yeah.
Right.
Good
Because I
on
can't
ya.
do I can't do that accent, and I would
No, neither
really,
can I. I just tried. It was
By
horrible.
the end,
really
you'd
like-
have it.
I would get it by,
By the end of the
Stay
trip.
I like
there.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd
New
pick it
Zealand
up.
You
would
have
be
to
great
immerse
too.
New
yourself.
Zealand would be great.
Yeah.
New Zealand would be pretty great.
While you're in Australia. Just
Yeah.
There
hop
you go.
on a
Yeah,
And I know that there are
Oh,
people
yeah.
listening to the podcast in both Australia and New Zealand.
Sure.
They're really
Of
cool.
course. We have listeners all over the place, of course.
Absolutely. Yep.
There you go.
Or if we don't, we'd love to have listeners from Australia
Oh,
and New Zealand.
We'll tag them in the
Yeah, right.
in the
you go.
Instagram.
All right. So, okay. Tough one. Probably. Maybe not. Do you have a favorite music genre? Might not be able to pick one. And you can say no. No is a valid
I have
answer.
different favorites throughout different periods of my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
And currently, my favorite is kind of modern Americana. So the stuff that John Mayer is doing, that's what I'm listening to the most right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Feels like.
I love that.
I do, but it's going to be a horrible answer to that question where it depends on what I'm doing and what time of day it is.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm going to answer it with I think it was a Duke Ellington quote, which was, "There's 2 kinds of music, the good kind and that other stuff." And so I always like,
As
I
long
like
as it's
Yeah, your
good.
favorite
Yeah.
genre is good.
the good stuff.
good
right?
stuff.
It's sort of like, why
Yeah.
do I care?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I love the good blues or good. I even like good like trio jazz. I like good singer songwriter. I like good dance music.
Is
I
there
like
anything you
good-
guys don't like?
I'm not big on
I don't
death
care.
metal.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
not being sarcastic. I mean,
What
seriously,
about,
Yeah.
what about
Norwegian, that hard, like really scary sounding death metal.
Yeah, no. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, not a-
that was good because I know exactly what you're talking about.
And although I really dig, there's a lot of hip hop stuff, particularly the Latin hip hop stuff.
yes.
Like the trap stuff. I really like that. But I think I like that better because some of the misogyny goes over my head.
Yeah.
And so I get, because I'm now,
Right. You're not picking up on
I'm
all the
not-
hip lingo.
Right, like, and I don't the sort of, because I'm so into whatever I'm listening to. When I
Hmm.
start hearing the sort of misogyny or just sort of the that kind of
It
dark
just-
stuff,
Yeah.
I get lost.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So
I gotcha.
I can only take about 2 or 3 polka songs.
polka,
Yeah.
Unless you're dancing the polka.
Yeah, even that.
Okay. All right. Not that you guys have time for this, but if you did have time,
Yeah.
favorite movie or show that you're watching now or you watched in the last 10 years?
God,
Doesn't
I love
matter.
Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
I love that show. She is so
Love
good.
that show.
She's great in
haven't
that.
seen
I love
that.
it too. Yep.
I loved.
That's Netflix, right?
I
Yeah.
loved White Collar. That was such a great
Don't
show.
know that show.
Oh, it was such a great show.
you
White
have
Collar.
White
Yeah.
collar.
We need something to watch. We
White
like
Collar.
to like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
check
I think
that
you and
out.
Richard would dig it.
Oh, it's so
Okay.
cool.
All right.
Yeah.
White Collar.
And then
Phew.
there are too many movies.
That'll
for me to
save him
choose.
from Victoria, which I was going to.
Yeah.
He was like, God, not another English period.
Right,
Because
right.
my
Yes.
husband's English.
The
Yeah.
last thing
Just
he's not what it's
quantify
like.
that.
Yeah, right. That's right.
There's too many movies for me to choose.
I also
I
like The
love
Good
movies.
Place.
I don't know that either. It's a good place. Don't ask Meg. Meg doesn't watch anything.
Yeah, The Good Place. The Good Place
so
is good
bad.
too.
It's
So true.
interesting. It's short. I like The Good Place because it's only like 22 minutes. Again,
Yeah.
Netflix has
Oh,
all
I
3
like that.
seasons now.
Yeah.
Okay, The
And they're
Good Place. And God, I already forgot the other one. I'll have to listen to the podcast.
White Collar.
White collar.
White collar.
Write that
Yeah,
down.
So
that
good.
sounds
All right,
good.
The Good Place, White Collar. I think I get that. All right, dog, cat, or fish?
Dog.
Wow. So
I'm
would it?
telling your dog if you.
It would have been. It would have been so
Good
easy.
thing your dog's not here.
It would have been so easy for me
If I didn't say fish?
4 years ago
Okay.
because I would have said cat immediately.
Okay.
But I have sort of.
He's since sort of.
You've fallen in love with your dog?
I have a dog now.
He has a dog now.
Amazing.
What happened was you did the same thing I did. Was where
She's an amazing dog. Her name's
you-
May, and she's just
Hey,
like
May.
the best golden
and you
ever.
came
my
into a
God,
relationship that
Golden's
already
my
had a
favorite.
dog.
I came into a relationship that had a dog.
Okay.
So see, when I met Val,
And I thought
I was
she
just
had a
gonna
dog, I became a dog lover by proxy,
Right.
And then eventually became a dog.
And I thought I was just going to have to put up with the dog.
no, you
Yeah,
love that dog.
but now
love
you're
this dog.
smitten.
Love the dog.
I do. I love this dog.
Okay. Is it like kids though? It's like you only like your own.
No, I
Don't like those other dogs.
I actually
Or are
like
you a
other
real
dogs.
dog?
I like other dogs better now because of the possibility that I see.
And I'm not
Yeah.
implying that Michael
In May.
only likes his own kids.
Right.
No. That was a joke.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
like my kids at all.
Yeah,
So
right.
that's fine.
All right, paper book or ebook?
Paper book.
Both papers.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I read ebooks too, but
Yep.
I do still prefer the paper.
Still
book.
prefer
I'd
the
say
paper.
that book on tape.
Yeah, Adam likes Audible.
You're
I
an
like
audible person.
Audible books.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have a mentor, past or present? Who is
Yeah.
it? Who was it?
Yeah, well, Skylar Scribner was my first music mentor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really.
PBS producer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had too many dimensions. Really.
Right.
Yeah.
Too many.
Can't narrow it down.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
don't have to. The
Yeah,
answer
but-
can be I had so many great mentors.
So many great mentors,
can't
and
choose.
in different places. So I've had musical mentors and business mentors and
Yeah.
sort of life mentors where you
Well,
look
yeah,
at
my parents are definitely our parents are
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
biggest mentors
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
And we can see
hands
why.
down.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
hands down.
No.
the older I get, the
And
more
likewise.
the
All
more I
right.
Yeah.
look for people that are older than me to go.
Yeah.
Who still has what I want?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you know, hopefully,
Yeah.
the older you get, the harder that gets. Where you start
Yeah.
going, I don't know, they're doing
pretty
it pretty
happy
well.
with- I'm
but
pretty
I'm
good
pretty
here.
happy with
I'm
my
pretty good
life.
here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, the other interesting thing too is that I don't know where you're at. Where I'm at right now, I get that from my students too, though.
Yeah.
Where I will
Yes.
have students come in and I'm like, oh, I want that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing
Yes.
that they're whatever it is that they're excited about, or that they're, you know. And I learned so much about music
Yes.
from my students.
Oh,
That's
man,
great.
it's
Keeps
me
you
too.
fresh.
That's
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Me too.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
That's why I don't have a favorite band or music
Right.
or anything. Like I don't.
You can't.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Well, and that's true. And that's something I got from teaching was when I first started teaching, I wanted to make sure I was young. I was like in my early 20s, and I wanted to make sure that nobody ever felt stupid for bringing a song in. Because the way I teach, I want to teach what you're into.
Yeah.
Right.
So I go, bring in whatever you're into, and we'll learn that. And I hated the idea of someone bringing something in and me going, seriously? Seriously, bro? Right? So I made a
Right.
real conscious choice to go, no matter what they bring in, I'm not going to make a face. I'm just going
Right.
to try to find the value in it.
Right.
And what's funny is reps, right?
Yeah.
Just by doing the
By
reps
doing
of
that.
doing that, I became somebody who doesn't tend to initially judge music until I feel it.
Right.
And then I find what I like about it and find what I don't, and I either continue listening or I don't. But I don't spend a lot of time going, that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
I,
not real music,
Right, right.
I
Yeah, I don't
definitely
have
feel
that
like
either.
that's you in your real life as well as your professional life.
That is kind of you to say, Bob.
You're very welcome. Okay, and this is the most important question,
Ah.
hands down.
Yes.
Difficult one, too.
Okay.
What's the correct way to hang the toilet paper?
Oh, the paper has to come over the top.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam, don't do let me
okay,
down
so-
here.
We discussed this on the way
However,
over. So
however
far,
his wife does it. That's the proper.
Yeah.
You guys ever see Coming to America?
Yeah,
yeah,
of course.
okay.
Yeah.
But
Do you know where he's trying to ask her what the woman who he's supposed to marry is supposed to? He's going to ask her what she likes,
Like what you like.
and she
Yeah.
goes, "I like what you like."
yes.
That is my favorite way
like
to
what you
answer all
like.
those questions. You know, however Val hangs the paper is
Yeah.
the right way.
and
right
you
way.
literally do not know, do you?
I don't.
I don't care what he says. The proper way is over the top.
It is over the top.
It is.
Okay.
I
just
think I did see a picture of the patent for the toilet paper hanger.
Is it
Yeah.
over the top?
It's over the top, but you know, somebody could have drawn a picture to make it look old. So I don't know if that's real.
They could have.
So on the
Well-
internet.
When you go home tonight, please take notice.
And I will
Or don't.
Here's the thing. However it's hanging at my house is the right way.
the right way.
I like what you like.
All right. Awesome.
Well, that was fun.
That was fun. Like I said, it was a lot of the same information, but from a different angle.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, we're if nothing else, guys, we're consistent. You're not. It's not really shocking when you hear us say
Right.
stuff,
Yeah. No, it's
other
not.
than like, wow, I can't believe they actually said that.
I can't. You're not supposed to say that. Did they say that? They didn't say that.
People are gonna get angry in the industry.
Didn't
About that.
someone told them they're not supposed to say that, right?
Did they not get the memo?
That's why we're saying it.
That's exactly why we're saying it.
That's kind of it. Exactly.
It's a little bit of our like 13-year-old.
Pretty much is.
Come at me. Come at me, industry.
You're not the boss of me.
You're not the boss of me. I'm telling her what it's really like.
I'm telling you the truth.
Exactly. So, but as always, guys, reach out to us.
Yeah. We love hearing from you.
We love hearing from you. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, like and share.
And like a chair. Exactly.
Pass this stuff on.
Exactly. And remember, you got this.
We got your back.